So global warming's been getting a lot of attention the past year or so. Do you think that the city council really has a responsibility to address this issue?
Well, it's interesting the way you asked the question. I like that because you asked if the city council has a responsibility, and the city council has a responsibility for just about everything that goes on in our lives, and that's certainly part of it. Global warming is an interesting topic because it's something that's terribly controversial and maybe need not be so much. I believe that there was a lot of opposition to global warming science that's out there until I realized that 70% of Americans in the most recent polling acknowledge that it's a problem and it's something that we should be dealing with, which at first tells me 30% disagree. But if you actually look back at presidential elections in the past, if you actually look at the popular vote, no presidential election, as long as they've recorded popular vote, has actually been 70-30. That's how one-sided this issue has truly become, which is somewhat encouraging because it's not a life-altering issue as much as some people would like to make it be. And a lot of people associate a tremendous amount of cost with this, but I see a tremendous amount of opportunity and investments that we can make in our community. So, as someone with a scientific background myself, I like to particularly approach global warming from looking at three different aspects. First of all, I like to say that, well, is it real? And when I'm looking at trying to establish whether global warming is a real threat or not, the first thing I say is, well, okay, is there a correlation between carbon dioxide in our atmosphere and the temperature? And we have ice core samples going back 600,000 years, and the correlation past any statistical significance test you'd ever want to apply to it is very clear that the level of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere absolutely has an effect on global climate. That's not controversial. The science is well established on that. The second thing I like to look at is, are we actually putting enough carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to be affecting things? And again, the science here is very clear. We can go back many, many years. We can see the beginning of the Industrial Revolution when we started burning fossil fuels, and there's no doubt about it. We are definitely increasing the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. So that's the first two parts. The third part is where all the controversy comes in, and maybe it should not be coming in, and that is what are the consequences of it. And there are certainly lots of objections to different scientific studies that have gone on, but the reality is no one's saying that the consequences of this are going to be good. No one's saying it's good policy for us to completely ignore this, and I stand absolutely by that. Even a 3-foot rise in water levels globally would dislocate 350 million people in the area of Bangladesh. It would destroy their lifestyles. I mean, a mere migration of a million people. Look what that's done in Darfur, Sudan. Imagine 350 million. It's absolutely a global issue at that point. So even in the most moderate scenarios, this is something that we need to address. So that's a little bit about the background and my feelings about global warming. Now let's get to the meat of the issue. What exactly as a community do we do about this? And here's where we have tremendous opportunity to save ourselves money, because it's not just the global warming, it's not just the pollution, but it's also the associated energy costs that go along with this that are so critical. We have natural gas prices that are going up at 6.5% per year. That means every 7 or 8 years or so, your gas bill is going to double. Put that in perspective. That means that $100 bill you had for heating the house in the summer, maybe that's going to be $400 in 2025. That one really cold month that you remember where you had a gas bill of $250, that's going to be $1,000. Think about how your lifestyle is going to have to change, because our wages aren't going up enough to accommodate that. So when people say that energy efficiency is only a cost, that's not necessarily true. It's going to save us a fortune in the future. So the things that we need to do at a local level, number one, planning and zoning. That's the meat of the issue. We can't continue sprawling out like crazy. We know this. There's so many reasons. There's tax reasons, there's environmental reasons, there's congestion reasons, and there's just livable neighborhood reasons. We have the obesity epidemic where we're tied to our automobiles. That's not helping anything either. Planning and zoning, building a sustainable city, laying out the city the right way, and being efficient with tax resources, that is not going to hurt us doing that. We should be doing that anyways. That's number one for dealing with global warming. Number two is having a transit system in place. Again, not terribly controversial. We should be designing our neighborhoods to be transit ready. Even if we don't have transit yet, this is not a difficult issue to understand. It's going to clearly save us a fortune in expenses in the future. I mean, imagine if gasoline is $10 a gallon. And I've got news for you. That's coming, like it or not. It will be here, and it will be here in most of our lifetimes. maybe the transit doesn't look like such a bad option at that point. Let's just at least make the steps to be ready. Third thing, I mean, come on, plant a tree. We have 60,000 tree shortage in this city. How does that happen? Most communities with 20 people and a dog have a tree ordinance, yet we don't. Isn't that kind of silly? Shouldn't a basic responsibility of the city council be to put something simple in place like this? It really is. It's really a tragedy that we've been negligent in this area. I mean, a tree ordinance does not cost hardly any money. It means that when a developer builds out of land, they're going to plant trees when they leave. If they cut down trees, they're going to plant more trees. When we lose trees in our park, we plant more trees. It's really a simple option. It has tremendous energy savings associated with it in terms of mature trees. And you know what, it really does improve the quality of our neighborhoods. Fourth thing, something I'm huge on, is energy efficient buildings. We cannot stress this enough. The reality is when we build a building now, we're talking about building a building that's going to be around for 100 years. And yet we consider it a 30-year life cycle for the building. When was the last time that we built a school and said, oh, hey, the school's 30 years old, time to tear it down and build a new one? Yeah, right. These buildings are going to be around for at least 100 years, and these upfront investments we make in energy efficiency, it can be things like better insulation, no-brainer, geothermal heating as compared to using natural gas, which is just going to continue to go up in price, better lighting, better appliances. These things are all going to save us a fortune. It lowers our taxes in the long run when we do it to public buildings, and it lowers our personal expenses when we do it with our structures. We need to put serious building codes in place for our new structures, and we also need to have a plan to retrofit existing buildings as this challenge mounts on us. There are so many simple things we can do, and I'd also encourage you to click on the link for the RPU talk about just how simple things like real-time pricing can also reduce our energy-related pollution. There are a number of ideas that are out there that are not going to hurt our quality of life. They're going to save us money in the long run. They're the right thing to do for our communities, and they shouldn't be controversial. So when you hear some of these pie-in-the-sky scenarios about what we're going to have to do to deal with global warming and how it's going to destroy our economy and how it's going to destroy our quality of life, just think about some of the things I mentioned. None of these are terribly complicated, and it just takes a little bit of leadership in our city to get these things going. The sad reality is right now in our city that little bit of leadership that's required is not there. I mean, we don't even have a tree ordinance. That's not too terribly difficult. I have a number of other additional ideas, and I'm not going to run through everything right now, but I just want to let the constituents out there know that this is an issue that I think about. I'm not an extremist in any way. I have some very reasonable and pragmatic approaches to this, and it's it's something that we should be handling for a multitude of reasons. So if you're interested in a candidate who actually has the capability to lead on a complicated and sometimes controversial issue like this, I'm the person that can do that, and I'm certainly going to take it very seriously.